Top of the hour, 8 p.m. Eastern. This is a special live edition of CNN Newsroom. I'm Poppy Harlow in New York. So glad you're with us. We begin tonight with breaking news. Lawyers saying dozens and dozens of travelers are being detained right now at New York's JFK airport. This as a result of President Trump's controversial executive order banning citizens of 7 Muslim-majority countries from entering the United States. This hour, the American Civil Liberties Union is in federal court seeking a nationwide stay that would block the deportation of all people stranded in the U.S. Under this ban in those airports. Now, protests at the same time are breaking out at the nation's airports, including in New York, Chicago, Denver, and Washington. 2 governors, both Democrats, slamming Trump's ban. Watch.
We have a family here today who I just met, a citizen of the United States. The Donald Trump administration allowed her husband to get on a plane in Vienna, waiting to get in the arms of his wife, but didn't let him go the 6 feet across this gate to embrace his wife. What type of cruel attitude based on demagoguery and fear does that to people?
I was informed by sources that we have a family here who has been detained. I have instructed my Attorney General to look at all avenues that we have here in Virginia, all legal remedies that we have to help these individuals who are stuck at our airport here in Virginia. So our message for the people here today, this is not the United States of America that we know. We are not going to tolerate it. We are not going to stand back. We here in Virginia are open and welcoming to everybody, and we want...
Meantime, a lawsuit has been filed on behalf of 2 Iraqis detained earlier today at JFK Airport despite holding valid visas to come into this country. One of them was already released. The other is expected to be released this hour. The travel ban targets Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Syria, Sudan, and Yemen. It does not include the 4 countries, though, where the 9/11 hijackers came from: Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Lebanon. Let's get straight to Rachel Crane. She's live for us tonight at JFK Airport. First, how much have the protests grown there tonight, Rachel?
Poppy, this protest has completely taken over Terminal 4 at this point. You even have people pouring out of a garage here. I would say there's easily 1,000 people there now on both sides of the street. We're also seeing that now some people are, in fact, blocking traffic, but it has been very peaceful here until we're now seeing these people blocking traffic. But we've seen infants here, we've seen little puppies, we've seen many people with homemade signs, we've even seen people bringing projectors, projecting onto the side of buildings, saying, "Let the refugees in." It's been really remarkable to see just how quickly this crowd has grown. But now this is at Terminal 4, where we know that earlier today 12 people were being detained. We know that one of them earlier, an Iraqi man, was released, and we're hearing that the second Iraqi man involved in the lawsuit that was filed today will be released, as you pointed out, this hour. Also at Terminal 1, though, not far from here, just take the air train, which has now been restricted to only people who are ticketed passengers and airport employees. That's to control the crowd that, as you can see, has been growing substantially behind me. But over at Terminal 1, Poppy, there are also many people that have been detained. We've heard about 7 or 8 people who have been detained there, one of which is a 68-year-old woman. Her son was there, very worried about her health because she's diabetic. Unclear if she has her medications. We also spoke to one young gentleman whose wife was detained. She had an F2 visa. She was due to come meet him here today at 8 a.m. She was detained, and now she's being sent back on a plane to Iran tonight at 11 p.m. But take a listen to what he had to say about the ordeal.
She called me through the phone that it was not hers and told me that she will be deported. And while she was crying, I don't think that I will stay in the U.S. anymore because of this kind of treatment. I don't have any clear vision about the future, about the treatments to the Iranian and other nationalities. So I don't feel safe anymore to stay here in the U.S.
Poppy. Politics aside, it's really quite difficult to hear about families being torn apart. And now we can also confirm to you that the second Iraqi man has, in fact, been released. Poppy.
All right, Rachel Crane, great reporting all night there from JFK. Thank you so much. Meantime, today, President Trump signed 3 more executive actions. He also spoke with a number of world leaders over the phone. Our White House correspondent Athena Jones has that report tonight from Washington.
Hi there. A very busy Saturday for President Trump. He spent most of the day on the phone with foreign leaders, starting with Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who he invited here to the White House for a meeting on February 10th. He also spoke with Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel, Russia's President Vladimir Putin, France's President Francois Hollande, and Australia's Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull. Now, Vice President Pence joined the president for that chat with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The White House describes that call as positive. They say it lasted about an hour. They discussed a range of subjects, including mutual cooperation in defeating ISIS and working together to achieve more peace throughout the world, including in Syria. The White House says the call is a significant start toward improving the relationship between the United States and Russia that is in need of repair. The Kremlin also described the call as positive and businesslike. The president also took several more executive actions today, signing a memorandum that would overhaul the structure of the National Security Council. That move, the White House says, is intended to adapt the structure of the council to better face the threats facing the U.S. He also signed an executive order implementing a 5-year ban on lobbying for administration officials and a lifetime ban on any officials lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. But one official here did acknowledge that it might be difficult to enforce those bans, certainly long after the Trump administration has ended. Finally, the president signed a memorandum calling on the Joint Chiefs of Staff to present to him within 30 days a plan to defeat ISIS. And as for that travel ban, the White House and the criticism surrounding the travel ban, officials here say that the moves are necessary because the current vetting process is, quote, woefully inadequate to serve the national security interests of the United States. Now, President Trump talked about this move during the signing of those executive orders. Here's what he had to say.
It's not a Muslim ban, but we were totally prepared. It's working out very nicely. You see it at the airports. You see it all over. It's working out very nicely. And we're going to have a very, very strict ban, and we're going to have extreme vetting, which we should have had in this country for many years.
The president's comments coming despite the confusion at airports around the world affected by these latest moves and, of course, the detentions in airports here in the U.S. Back to you.
Athena Jones at the White House, thank you so much. Reaction has been swift to President Trump's executive order that bans over 130 million people from those 7 Muslim-majority countries from entering the United States. Several legal challenges have already been filed. George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley joins me from Washington. Thank you for coming on the program. And let me begin with this. We know at this moment the ACLU is in a U.S. District Court in Brooklyn tonight seeking a nationwide stay, trying to block this. What are the chances that you think they'll be successful?
Well, it's very, very difficult to prevail on a stay of that kind. You have to show a likelihood of prevailing on the merits. The court precedent actually supports President Trump. I don't like this rule. I don't support it. I think it's a real mistake. But whether it is unlawful, whether it's unconstitutional is a different question. The courts have historically granted presidents a great deal of deference. This country has excluded people in the past on these types of orders. It has often been directed towards, for example, Asians and Chinese individuals. These were terrible periods during our country, but those actions were not found to be unconstitutional. Even President Obama argued to the court just last year that executive power over immigration are decisions that don't belong in the courts, and that he had sweeping authority in this area. So President Trump is building on that precedent, and I think he has an upper hand. I do not think that the courts will treat this as a Muslim ban. They can't treat it that way because there are many Muslim countries that are not covered. And a court's not going to read into this, even if many people believe that's the motivation, a religious discriminatory purpose.
You have cited the 1952 Immigration and Nationality Act when you consider the legality of this. And let me read part of that to our viewers. Whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or of any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary suspend all the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem appropriate. Is this the legal basis for Trump's executive order?
It is a big part of it, but even before that law was passed, presidents exercise this type of authority. The president's authority at the borders is at its zenith. And while one can certainly disagree with this order on its merits and what it means about our values as a country, the precedent has largely supported the president. Even Jimmy Carter used this authority to deport thousands of Iranian students during his administration.
Where do you expect this to go? There are many voters that I've talked to who wanted to see something like this. They liked hearing extreme vetting from candidate Trump. That's why they made him President Trump. And yet you see the outcry on some American streets across the, in cities across the country tonight. How do you expect this will play out legally?
Well, the passions are running very, very high. I've never seen the country so torn apart, and it's very troubling. Legally, the courts are going to view this in a more clinical fashion, and certainly not with the same passions. They're going to look at whether a president's view of what the national security demands can be overridden by a single federal judge. The answer to that historically has been no, that they give great deference to the president's authority in this regard, even though great questions, legitimate questions have been raised about whether this is effective. And so I believe that he has the advantage going into the courts, and the ACLU is going to have a tough time with this. Now, having said that, this is in fact a decision made by a president, but we don't have a single branch government. Congress can be heard on this subject. What you just quoted from my blog is something passed by Congress. Congress gave the president that authority. So he has both the legislative authority plus that pre-existing executive authority from Article 2.
Jonathan Turley, fascinating conversation, an important one tonight. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you, Poppy.
Ahead this hour, much more, of course, on our top story. We will take you live to Iraq, where the hopes of many refugee families are now indefinitely on hold. You're live in the CNN Newsroom.